Another situation that occurs, again, when my opponent's weight is inside and typically when his hips are facing somewhat in. Again, he's in a little bit better position here, and so far as though I have his leg, he's facing me, he has some position and some power into me, is to push my head away. Now, if he pushes my head away, or sometimes pushes it slightly down towards the leg, I've got to resist. I've got to resist, because if I just let him push my head down, he's going to defend, and he's going to defeat me in that position. So it's important I can do what I can to freeze my head, to keep it still for a moment. Now, I can help myself do that in this way. If my head doesn't have contact with Colby's chest, he can push it down fairly easily. In other words, it's kind of like my neck is against his weight and his arm power. But the more I can keep my face against his body here, the more difficult it is for him to push my head down, because I have at least a little bit of friction. And that's going to buy me a couple of moments. Okay, and that's all I'm trying to do. We're presuming in this situation that my opponent or partner is ultimately going to be able to push my head down. Because if they weren't, I'd do one of the other attacks or the other finishes that we've already talked about. So I'm going to presume that I'm in this position and my opponent or partner is just plain starting to beat me. I can feel him pushing my head either down or slightly away. I know I don't have a whole lot of time. So at first it's crucial that I maintain my position. What I'm going to do then is, as Colby's pushing my head down, I'm going to go in the same direction, down his leg to here, all the way down to the ankle. Now, what's going on there? If I'm in the single leg position, when Colby's pushing my head, most of the time it's going roughly in the direction of this leg. He's pushing me in this direction. I'm resisting by kind of pushing back. I'm still trying to keep the weight down in terms of my overall weight, but my head position is going this way. Because if I just like sag and let him push my head down, I'm sunk. I'm going to lose that position. So my head's pushing back, but it's not like my head's pushing back and I'm letting him be neutral here with his weight on his foot. I'm still sagging, but I'm really concentrated now on sagging down here, but pushing up with my head to fight. Now, like a slingshot, if he's pushing me here, I want to break away and I want to change my position here behind his knee, behind his ankle, all in one movement, in a similar arching type of movement. He's pushing, I resist, then like a slingshot, and this grip that was around his knee comes around his ankle. And I'm not trying to grab, I'm just trying to slide. This is a big hole here. So, as I come down, and it's a little tighter when I had the leg in here, but when I arch, I open that hole up, so the leg is going to come through because I'm sliding down the leg, and then I'm going to catch the ankle. This is an effective position when your opponent's pushing at this position here. Now, Colby's weight, of course, is not down anymore. Now I'm manipulating his weight so that it's difficult for him to maintain his position because his weight is light on this foot. In other words, I'm pushing up in a position that's uncomfortable for him to maintain his balance. We're not neutral, though. Colby pushes on my head, I resist to here. Now, I want you to notice the next thing. I'm by his heel, I grab behind his Achilles, and I pinch. Why do I pinch? Because I don't want Colby to turn away from me. And if I control his ankle and his Achilles tendon here, this grip here, to my chest, and I pinch his toe underneath my armpit, it makes it difficult and dangerous, in fact, for him to turn away from me. Whereas if I just have him here, he can jump out. So once I get up to that position, immediately I secure the ankle by going around with my palm around his Achilles to his upper part of his outside ankle, pinch, his toes into me so that I'm almost putting his toes at that awkward angle. It makes it even more difficult for him to turn away. This position here. Now I can finish this a couple of ways. One way is I can grab him here by the head and I can pull him where he doesn't have a post. If his weight is pulled this way and down, he's got no post. If his weight is pulled over here, he's got no post over here because I've got that leg. Pinch. I'm very tight here, and I want to be tall here. I'm not neutral. I don't want to be neutral. I want to be up high. Now from here, notice how his knee is. Notice how this toe is. It's not like here, because now he's a little more comfortable turning this up. I want to keep this like this. From here, look, if he grabs me, no problem. I can grab over. And again, I keep the weight down now. The weight was up. But now to pull him down, I've got to have the weight down, and I've got to pull his weight inside of his supporting leg. Once I'm in this position, again, if I don't put weight down, we're just going to be jumping around all day. So, at first the weight was up. What is he trying to do? If I'm pulling the weight up, he's trying to maintain balance or trying to settle his weight back down. So that's what I'm going to help him. I'm going to help him. So when I put the weight down, I'll sag and make it heavy, jerk him away from that support to where he doesn't have a post, and then he'll go down fairly easily. Now, an alternative from coming up to the head is, especially if I notice that my partner or opponent begins to shift his weight over that foot again, is a similar type of technique we did earlier. And that is to put the weight down. And you can tell here, if I've got this tight and I put weight down here and it locks his knee out, I've got a fair amount of leverage to be able to keep weight on that foot. And I'm just going to block it. Now you'll notice my head isn't in quite the same position because before when I did that trip, I was much higher up on the leg and there was much better contact. Here there isn't as good contact, but I've got really good pressure on the leg because I've got it straightened out. And that's going to help keep good weight down to prevent Colby here from jumping away. So if I try number one here, and he's fighting, and all of a sudden I notice, oh, I can't get that because he's coming further away, I come down, and not like this. I come down here, and I'm going to come in, down, and almost like a battering ram, down, because I can't push with my head as good. I've got to kind of use the leg to kind of jam it through. If in that situation, I notice that my opponent does get a little loose here, or I'm a little sloppy and have not secured it effectively enough, if he starts to come out, one possibility is for me to skip in and trip above his knee. Now for me to do this, let me first tell you how not to do it. It's important that I don't just try to reach with my leg above his knee, because that's a long reach for me, and I need to get my hips closer to his hips. I need to get my center of gravity and balance pretty close to his. And the way I can do that is to skip in. Notice when I do that, I skip and cock this leg at the same time. Again, this is a difficult reach. However, if I'm closer, it's not so bad. Now, the step isn't the most efficient way to get in there. A hop is. Now, from that position, hop. I've got good power here with my leg. I'm going to chop, and notice how I turn my hip. I'm not just chopping like this. I'm going to chop, and I'm going to turn my hip. Simultaneously, my shoulder comes down. And here, He kind of turns his hip away. I hop in. Finish. It's crucial you get above the knee, of course, because if I don't, he jumps over. So I've got to catch my opponent right above the knee. And this is kind of a throwing kind of motion in here. I skip in, and as I cock my leg back, I'm using my hip and power from my hamstring. I'm also popping down with my shoulder. He comes away a little bit. Turns his knee away a little bit. Colby turns away.